The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that we have to ask, is Sharon Newman and Phyllis Summers' friendship too weird? Some fans are starting to feel like Phyllis and Sharon's old rivalry was better than the awkward bond they have now. So let's talk about this tricky situation. Of course, we should acknowledge that Sharon and Phyllis' conflict had gotten pretty stale before the captivity fiasco. After so many years of Phyllis and Sharon feuding with each other, it's easy to see why Y&R might want to try something else. However, the show might be going overboard by having Phyllis and Sharon almost acting like besties, albeit uncomfortable ones. It's one thing for Sharon and Phyllis to gain a mutual understanding and respect for each other after a kidnapping crisis. It's quite another for these former bitter rivals to be showering each other with compliments and even sharing hugs. The whole thing just feels forced and bizarre at this point. On social media, Y&R fans have definitely been weighing in with their thoughts on Phyllis and Sharon's newfound bond. Some viewers are happy to see Sharon and Phyllis finally getting along, but others don't approve of all the awkwardness. Phyllis and Sharon might not go as far as calling each other buddies, but they've definitely moved in a far more friendly direction since they scored their freedom. Since Sharon and Phyllis saved each other's lives, that's been a factor in all this. Phyllis and Sharon are the only two people who really understand what it was like while Martin Laurent was holding them hostage in that psychiatric clinic. Even so, it's tough to watch Sharon and Phyllis plaster on smiles as they try to navigate conversations now. Phyllis and Sharon are struggling to know how to behave without their typical rivalry fueling their actions. With all that in mind, do you think Sharon and Phyllis should just go back to being rivals? Do Phyllis and Sharon work better as foes going up against each other? Although Sharon and Phyllis have been making some positive predictions about their new understanding, this truce may not be meant to last. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. The Young and the Restless recap for Monday, April 21, reveals that Billy Abbott's offer will stun Sally Spectra, while Phyllis Summers deals with some heartbreaking news. At the GCAC, Phyllis will be ready to hit the ground running at Abbott Communications, but Daniel Romalotti Jr. won't seem as excited. Billy will join the discussion and learn that Daniel doesn't know what he wants to do creatively. Daniel will suggest that Billy can just stick him wherever at the company, but he'll ultimately decide this whole situation just isn't right for him. Once Phyllis follows Daniel to the park, he'll open up about how lost he feels now that Heather Stevens has gone along with all their plans for a future together. It'll break Phyllis' heart as she tries to find a way to support her son. Daniel was hoping time would heal his wounds, but he'll still be struggling on Monday's I&R episode. Phyllis won't want to do Abbott Communications without Daniel, but he'll think that's where her passion is. Daniel will insist on finding his own new chapter, but he won't be sure what that's going to look like. Later, Daniel will run into Tessa Porter at Crimson Lights, where he'll help with her crossword puzzle. Tessa will sense that Daniel is troubled and want to help him next. That'll lead to Daniel admitting he feels like his life has hit the brakes, so he'll also confess he doesn't know how to get back on track. Back at the athletic club, Billy will give Sally updates on all the latest Daniel drama. It'll leave Billy worried that he's going to lose Phyllis too since she was a package deal with Daniel. Sally will wonder about Billy's plan B, but he'll admit he doesn't have one. When Sally asks who else Billy might trust as a business partner, he'll eventually suggest Sally herself. Sally will be flattered over the offer, but she'll insist her heart is in fashion and will turn Billy down. Although Sally will think there are better options than Phyllis for Billy to work with, she'll acknowledge that Phyllis is loyal. Billy will wonder what Sally means, so she'll admit Phyllis sought her help talking Billy out of his involvement with Aristotle Dumas. Sally will defend Phyllis' protective side, since she'll agree Aristotle can't be trusted. Once Phyllis pops back up, she'll hint that Daniel is an oak, and will seek Billy's assistance. At Society, Claire Newman will have breakfast with Victoria Newman and Nikki Newman, so they'll find out Kyle Abbott asked her to move in together. Victoria will think it's too soon and will warn that it would throw gasoline on the Victor Newman fire. Nikki will argue that Claire and Kyle have to make choices for themselves, regardless of what Victor thinks. After Claire points out that she's falling in love with Kyle, she'll eventually decide she knows what she needs to do. Kyle will appear and wonder what's up, so Claire will clarify that this decision involves him too. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Claire and Kyle could be on the verge of cohabitating, so they should make more living arrangement predictions soon. CDL's the place to be for terrific Young and the Restless spoilers, updates and news, so make us your one-stop Y and R source. The Young and the Restless recap for Monday, April 21, reveals that Billy Abbott's offer will stun Sally Spectra, while Phyllis Summers deals with some heartbreaking news. At the GCAC, Phyllis will be ready to hit the ground running at Abbott Communications, but Daniel Romalotti Jr. won't seem as excited. Billy will join the discussion and learn that Daniel doesn't know what he wants to do creatively. Daniel will suggest that Billy can just stick him wherever at the company, but he'll ultimately decide this whole situation just isn't right for him. Once Phyllis follows Daniel to the park, he'll open up about how lost he feels now that Heather Stevens is gone along with all their plans for a future together. It'll break Phyllis' heart as she tries to find a way to support her son. Daniel was hoping time would heal his wounds, but he'll still be struggling on Monday's I and R episode. Phyllis won't want to do Abbott Communications without Daniel, but he'll think that's where her passion is. Daniel will insist on finding his own new chapter, but he won't be sure what that's going to look like. Later, Daniel will run into Tessa Porter at Crimson Lights, where he'll help with her crossword puzzle. Tessa will sense that Daniel is troubled and want to help him next. That'll lead to Daniel admitting he feels like his life has hit the brakes, so he'll also confess he doesn't know how to get back on track. Back at the athletic club, Billy will give Sally updates on all the latest Daniel drama. It'll leave Billy worried that he's going to lose Phyllis, too, since she was a package deal with Daniel. Sally will wonder about Billy's plan B, but he'll admit he doesn't have one. When Sally asks who else Billy might trust as a business partner, he'll eventually suggest Sally herself. Sally will be flattered over the offer, but she'll insist her heart is in fashion and will turn Billy down. Although Sally will think there are better options than Phyllis for Billy to work with, she'll acknowledge that Phyllis is loyal. Billy will wonder what Sally means, so she'll admit Phyllis sought her help talking Billy out of his involvement with Aristotle Dumas. Sally will defend Phyllis' protective side, since she'll agree Aristotle can't be trusted. Once Phyllis pops back up, she'll hint that Daniel is an oak and will seek Billy's assistance. At Society, Claire Newman will have breakfast with Victoria Newman and Nikki Newman, so they'll find out Kyle Abbott asked her to move in together. Victoria will think it's too soon and will warn that it would throw gasoline on the Victor Newman fire. Nikki will argue that Claire and Kyle have to make choices for themselves, regardless of what Victor thinks. After Claire points out that she's falling in love with Kyle, she'll eventually decide she knows what she needs to do. Kyle will appear and wonder what's up, so Claire will clarify that this decision involves him too. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Claire and Kyle could be on the verge of cohabitating, so they should make more living arrangement predictions soon. You know what they say about all work and no play. Well, a few actresses at The Young and the Restless have made sure to add in a little fun between takes, and we got a kick out of their behind-the-scenes routine. Eileen Davidson posted a video that paid homage to the Maharel sisters, and began with Melissa Ordway dancing in place while gleefully introducing herself. Next up was Amelia Heinel, followed by Melissa Claire Egan, and finally, Davidson appeared in the background with two brushes in her hands, and belted out an introduction that likely echoed loudly throughout the hallway. A homage to the Maharel sisters, Davidson stated, as Egan chimed in, "We have no fun at work," and Heinel added, "So funny." For those who watch Saturday Night Live, you've likely seen the group performed by various cast members and guests during its introduction to their fictional The Lawrence Welk Show. And putting a personal spin on the skit seems to be the latest social media craze to sweep the internet. Prior to that, Ordway posted a little pre-taping dance party while in the hair and makeup room. The actress happily danced with Heinel and Egan, and wait until you see the look on her face when Davidson added her spin to the mix. The Young and the Restless spoilers and updates tease Summer Newman's fixation on Kyle Abbott might pose a genuine risk to Claire Newman's prospects with him. Victor Newman has brought Audra Charles on board to sabotage Kyle's romance with Claire, yet there's no certainty she will achieve her goal. Nate Hastings has begun to question Audra's arrangement with Victor, particularly her odd forecasts that Kyle's relationship with Claire is on shaky ground. Even Claire and Kyle are intrigued by Audra's recent bravado regarding the impending rivalry. Essentially, Audra's incessant chatter might jeopardize Victor's strategy. It seems she is revealing too much information that could ultimately backfire on her. While Audra aims to entice Kyle into a tricky situation, it's likely that Claire will eventually discern her true intentions. This is particularly relevant following Kyle's updates to Claire about Victor's espionage activities at Jibba during the April 18 episode of Y&R. However, if Claire doesn't come to this realization quickly, it could spark some relationship tension. She might take her time believing in Kyle's innocence, giving Summer the opportunity to act. Could Kyle end up in bed with Summer, only to discover that Claire has figured out the truth and understands that Audra was scheming against them on Victor's behalf? There's a chance that Summer could create complications down the line if Claire chooses to forgive Victor for his romantic interference. Kyle might believe that Claire will sever all ties with Victor for good, leading to frustration if she doesn't. Should Claire and Kyle clash over her decision to give Victor another shot, it could provide Summer with the perfect opportunity to make her move on her ex. Summer is clearly still hung up on Kyle and is likely to become more determined to win him back in the upcoming episodes. Ultimately, it seems that Audra may not be the one to disrupt Kyle and Claire's relationship when the moment arrives. Instead, it could be Summer who swoops in to deliver the final blow that ends Claire's romance with Kyle. Recent spoilers for the CBS soap indicate that Victor might still get the news he desires about Kyle and Claire's split, but will it be Summer who makes it happen? Summer and Kyle have been on and off for years, starting as childhood friends. That's a bond that goes back so many years it may be impossible to break. For over 3 decades, Peter Bergman has graced television screens as the charming, complex, and iconic Jack Abbott on The Young and the Restless. With piercing eyes, a commanding presence, and the ability to make audiences feel every nuance of his character's emotions, Peter has become a pillar not only of the Abbott family in Genoa City, but of the entire daytime drama landscape. But in recent months, fans have been buzzing with concern and speculation. Whispers of a serious health crisis, rumors of retirement, questions about whether we're nearing the end of an era. Is Peter Bergman saying goodbye to the role that defined him for generations? A sudden health crisis. Peter Bergman is known for his professionalism and strong work ethic, rarely missing a day on set. He's often referred to by castmates as a calming presence and a true veteran of the craft. So when news emerged that he had experienced a medical emergency, fans were understandably shaken. Several months ago, Bergman was forced to take time away from filming after experiencing a serious health issue, a detached retina. It was sudden, unexpected, and required immediate surgery. This condition, which can lead to permanent vision loss if not treated quickly, was a stark reminder that even the strongest among us are not immune to the fragility of life. During his recovery, Peter had to rest and limit screen time. For a man used to working long days on set, memorizing pages of dialogue, and bringing a character to life day after day. This was not an easy adjustment, but it was necessary. He took the time to heal, allowing his body and eyes to recover fully. Retirement rumors begin to swirl as his absence from the show became noticeable. Fans began to speculate. Online forums and social media feeds lit up with questions. Is Peter Bergman leaving the show? Is this the beginning of the end for Jack Abbott? Is Peter okay? The concern was genuine. After all, Peter Bergman has been part of The Young and the Restless since 1989. For many viewers, he is the heartbeat of the show, representing both its legacy and its soul. Despite the rumors, there was no official word from Peter, his representatives, or the show's producers that he planned to retire. And eventually, viewers were relieved to see him back on screen, just as sharp, passionate, and present as ever. A quiet but powerful return. When Peter returned to Y&R after his recovery, it wasn't with fanfare or dramatic announcements. He slipped back into Jack Abbott's tailored suits and emotional conflicts with the ease of someone who knows his character inside and out. But something had changed, subtly, quietly. Those who watched closely noticed a deeper emotional resonance in his performances. Scenes involving grief, legacy, family struggles, or quiet moments of introspection carried more weight. As if Peter, having faced a personal health crisis, was drawing from a well of real-life vulnerability to inform his character even more truthfully. It was a reminder of what makes him such an extraordinary actor, his ability to channel life's deepest experiences into his work. Where he stands now, while Peter Bergman has acknowledged that he's not getting any younger, he has not made any official announcement about retiring. In fact, he has made it clear in previous interviews that as long as he feels physically and emotionally capable, and as long as the fans and the writers still want Jack Abbott, he's not going anywhere. For him, Jack Abbott is more than a character. He's a legacy, a part of his identity. Over the years, Peter has navigated Jack through heartbreak, addiction, betrayal, triumph, and endless family drama. He's weathered on-screen battles and off-screen challenges alike, and come through stronger. So while it's true that his health scare served as a wake-up call, it doesn't signal an end. Instead, it appears to have deepened his appreciation for the craft, the role, and the audience that has supported him for over 35 years. In the latest developments from The Young and the Restless, tensions escalate in Genoa City as long-standing alliances face critical tests. Central to this week's unfolding drama is a high-stakes confrontation between Michael Baldwin and Diane Jenkins Abbott. This interaction reveals not only personal suspicions and professional entanglements, but also deeper fractures within the ongoing Abbott-Newman rivalry. Michael Baldwin, long regarded as a principled legal professional, finds himself in an increasingly complex situation. A seemingly incidental encounter with Diane at a local bar quickly turns into an intense interrogation. Diane, leveraging her insight into Genoa City's intricate social and business webs, presses Michael about his connections to Victor Newman, particularly regarding potential involvement in undermining Jack Abbott and the Jabot enterprise. Michael, maintaining his stance as a neutral legal representative, categorically denies acting with partiality or engaging in manipulation on Victor's behalf. Nevertheless, Diane's persistent questioning pushes Michael into a defensive posture. Her inquiries cut into Michael's professional integrity, prompting him to reevaluate the implications of his long-standing loyalty to Victor. Diane's approach is far from casual. Her objective appears twofold: to confirm Michael's current allegiances and to provoke a shift in his alignment toward the Abbott family. She raises concerns about Victor's continued efforts to disrupt Kyle Abbott's relationship with Claire, speculating that the Newman patriarch is motivated by a desire to make Kyle suffer. This assertion resonates with Michael, casting further doubt on the ethical boundaries of his employer. Though Michael acknowledges that his career has benefited from Victor's influence, he expresses discomfort with Victor's methods, particularly those driven by vengeance. This internal conflict places Michael at a crossroads between personal loyalty and moral responsibility. Meanwhile, Kyle Abbott is entangled in a separate but related conflict. After discovering the extent of Victor's surveillance, Kyle confesses to Jack that he shared this sensitive information with Claire. Jack's response is measured yet cautionary. While he understands Kyle's motivation to be transparent with Claire, he warns of potential consequences should Victor discover the breach. Jack, acutely aware of Victor's capacity for retaliation, urges restraint. Still, he recognizes that withholding truths may ultimately cause more harm, particularly as Claire's relationship with Victor becomes increasingly strained. In a parallel development, Michael confronts Victor about Diane's accusations and the overall instability brewing between the Abbott and Newman factions. Michael suggests scaling back surveillance to de-escalate tensions, but Victor rebuffs the idea. He downplays the Abbott's ability to retaliate and maintains his belief that strategic dominance will prevail. Victor's unwillingness to consider moderation further exacerbates Michael's concerns. The lawyer, though indebted to Victor professionally, begins to question whether continued loyalty is sustainable amid escalating risks. As the Abbott-Newman conflict deepens, each character faces critical decisions with far-reaching consequences. Diane positions herself as both an instigator and a potential catalyst for change, using her interactions with Michael and Jack to subtly influence the broader landscape. Jack remains skeptical, focused on shielding his family from manipulation, while Michael is forced to navigate the treacherous divide between legal professionalism and personal ethics. With lines increasingly blurred and motivations under scrutiny, The Young and the Restless sets the stage for an impending showdown. Viewers can expect intensifying confrontations, emerging secrets, and pivotal shifts in loyalty as this multifaceted saga unfolds in the days ahead. The internal dynamics at The Young and the Restless continue to escalate as Genoa City becomes the battleground for a high-stakes corporate war. At the center of this latest power struggle is Victor Newman, whose reaction to perceived betrayal has initiated a series of retaliatory maneuvers against former ally Audra Charles. Meanwhile, covert alliances, ethical dilemmas, and cyber warfare add layers of complexity to the unfolding drama. Victor Newman, patriarch and corporate titan, has initiated a calculated response following revelations that Audra publicly denounced him and undermined his authority. Her decision to expose internal misconduct has been interpreted by Victor as a personal betrayal, an affront not only to his leadership, but to the family-driven ethos he enforces across Newman Enterprises. Behind closed doors, Victor is leveraging every legal and strategic resource at his disposal. Internal teams are coordinating reputation management efforts, financial reallocations, and asset reassessment. Yet, the true driver of Victor's campaign is not corporate preservation, but vengeance. Audra's actions stem not from vendetta, but from an allegiance to transparency and ethics. Her disclosures regarding Victor's aggressive business practices have positioned her as both a whistleblower and a liability. Though some within Chancellor Winters respect her integrity, others fear the ramifications of associating with someone now squarely in Victor's crosshairs. Her professional standing is now tenuous. Board members are retreating, friends are conflicted, and her security is increasingly precarious. Despite this, Audra stands by her principles, fully aware that challenging Victor Newman may have irrevocable consequences. Nate Hastings finds himself navigating the intersection between personal loyalty and strategic caution. Though he supports Audra in principle, he remains on the periphery, unwilling to actively oppose Victor. This distance, while offering protection, reflects the classic tension between self-preservation and moral obligation. Nate's neutrality, however, is tested when he accidentally overhears a sensitive conversation revealing Tucker McCall's covert involvement in aiding Audra. The conversation includes a key codename, Aristotle, a potential security breach that introduces new complications. Tucker McCall, though not physically present in Genoa City, exerts significant influence from behind the scenes. He operates under the alias Aristotle Dumas, a cryptic identity that fuels speculation. Whether this persona represents a skilled hacker, a digital saboteur, or simply a symbolic identity for psychological warfare remains unclear. The hypothesis is strategic. By adopting the Aristotle persona, Tucker can destabilize Victor's empire without direct confrontation. This dual approach, psychological manipulation and operational support for Audra, demonstrates a level of subterfuge that Victor may be ill-prepared to counter. In a moment of unintended candor, Audra refers to Tucker as Aristotle during a call. Unknown to her, Nate witnesses this interaction, unintentionally gaining access to a tightly guarded secret. This breach has cascading implications. The leak could compromise Tucker's anonymity, trigger internal investigations, and offer Victor the leverage needed to dismantle the alliance before it matures. Audra's slip raises a broader concern. Is this clandestine campaign sustainable, or has it already begun to unravel under the weight of secrecy? Victor, known for exploiting vulnerabilities, now has multiple potential responses if he uncovers the identity behind Aristotle Dumas. These could include misinformation campaigns to discredit Tucker's influence, digital entrapment to intercept further communications, public exposure of Tucker's role to delegitimize Audra's stance. Each of these countermeasures would drastically shift the momentum of the conflict. This storyline is emblematic of the blurred line between corporate strategy and personal morality. Audra's mission, holding a powerful figure accountable, resonates with broader themes of integrity versus loyalty. However, by entrusting her safety to a shadow figure like Tucker, she may be entangling herself in a campaign that operates in moral gray zones. Moreover, her confidence in Tucker's methods, potentially involving hacking, manipulation of financial markets, and back-channel dealings, could erode her credibility as a reformer. The battle between Victor Newman and Tucker McCall threatens to reshape Genoa City's power landscape. With Audra at the epicenter and Nate caught in the moral undertow, the next moves will be pivotal. The use of the codename Aristotle may symbolize more than just a disguise. It may be the spark that ignites full-scale corporate warfare. The Young and the Restless preview video for the week of April 21 to 25 indicates that Diane Jenkins Abbott will finally pull off a big reveal, so Kyle Abbott and Jack Abbott will react to the Abbott Mansion makeover. Although Diane has downplayed the renovations, Jack has certainly had some concerns about just how many changes are being made. Since Jack adores his family home and the vibe it has, he's been wary of Diane's grand plans. Nevertheless, Diane has assured Jack that she's not going overboard when it comes to the Abbott Mansion refresh. This is just about giving the house a little facelift and allowing Diane to make her mark on the place at the same time. As Diane leads Kyle and Jack into the mansion, she'll warn them not to peek. Diane will eventually give Jack and Kyle the green light to open their eyes, so they'll both be taken aback by what they see. There's a good chance both Jack and Kyle are going to love seeing Diane's vision brought to life. Diane has been hoping to gain more acceptance within the Abbott clan, so getting everyone's approval on the mansion renovations could be a step in the right direction. In addition to Diane's makeover revelation, Y&R's weekly preview video also features Nate Hastings delivering some important news to Amy Lewis. "I got off the phone with Dr. Kelly. I have an update on your treatment," Nate tells Amy as she sits next to Damien Kane in the promo clip. Based on Nate's hopeful tone, it sounds like the updates he'll pass along will be positive ones. Nate, Damian, and Amy will all have something to celebrate if Dr. Kelly has some optimistic predictions about Amy extending her life. At Crimson Lights, Tessa Porter will ask Daniel Romalotti Jr. an interesting question. After Tessa wonders if there's anything Daniel's been wanting to do that he didn't have time for, he'll admit he might have just the thing. However, Daniel will need some help with whatever he has in mind, so he'll no doubt recruit Tessa to be part of it. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Daniel and Tessa will continue to bond, so stay tuned to see where this storyline is headed next. CDL's the place to be for fantastic Young and the Restless spoilers, updates and news, so make us your one-stop Y and our source. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Friday, April 18 suggests some major drama on the horizon as Genoa City heads into the weekend. Someone presents a poker face, while another shares their concerns, and a friend places a loved one in a compromising position. What should fans expect from Friday's episode? Time to find out. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Friday, April 18, imply that Victor Newman will play his cards close to his chest. He's got a ton of sneaky moves on the go right now. So what is this all about? From planting 2 spies within Jabba to keeping his eye out on Aristotle Dumas, and Billy Abbott, the mustache, has a lot of scheming plans on his plate. Will Claire Newman confront her grandpa about what she learned during the Thursday, April 17 episode? It'll be interesting to see what this is all about. Speaking of Aristotle Dumas, Lily Winters will meet up with Amy Lewis and share concerns she has about Damian Kane. Damian works for Dumas, and while Lily is trying her best to trust Amy's son, she can't bring herself to because of Aristotle and his shadiness. With that said, is Damian as sketchy as he seems? Amy will try to ease Lily's trust issues where her son is concerned, but will Ms. Winters drop her guard? Lastly, the Young and the Restless spoilers for Friday note that Diane Abbott will place Michael Baldwin in a compromising position. She learned that her friend Michael had helped Victor place 2 plants in Jabot. While Jack Abbott warned Diane not to get involved, it sounds like she'll do just this during Friday's episode. Still, will she blow Jack and Kyle Abbott's plan to strike back because of this move? What storyline are you most excited to see unfold on Friday? Join the conversation in the comments section. Catch CBS Soap Daily to see what happens next and visit SOS often for the best Young and the Restless updates, news, and spoilers. The Young and the Restless spoilers indicate that 4 liars will get busted. Some deception will lead to couple shakeups and family drama. So let's talk about which lying characters will get caught and the life changes they'll face. Now that Audra Charles has decided to accept Victor Newman's offer and ruin Kyle Abbott's relationship with Claire Newman, there's going to be trouble. Audra is trying to convince herself that she can pull this off, but her agreement with Victor is a disaster waiting to happen. Since Audra is lying to Nate Hastings about the true nature of this deal and the dirty moves she's about to make, she could set herself up for heartbreak. Once Audra goes through with this shady plan, Nate will inevitably find out what she really signed on for. Between the lies and this attack on Kyle's personal life, Nate may decide Audra isn't the kind of person he wants to date. Of course, Holden Novak could play a role in Nate and Audra's potential breakup as well. Since Audra downplayed her intense past romance with Holden as a casual fling, Holden has been backing her up. However, it's clear that Holden is still very into Audra and would like to reunite if possible. At some point, Nate may find out Audra and Holden's history was more passionate and powerful than they've been letting on. That could crush any hope Audra might have of salvaging her relationship with Nate, so she may not be pleased if Holden lets the truth about their past leak. Holden, on the other hand, may think it's time to go all in on winning Audra back. Once everything is out in the open, Holden may pull out all the stops on fighting for an Audra reunion. Victor normally gets by with most of the lies he tells, but maybe not when it comes to Claire. My and our spoilers say bad news could be brewing for Victor once his latest scheme comes to light. Since Victor promised Claire he wouldn't sabotage her romance, and has now hired Audra to do just that, Claire's going to have a problem with her grandfather's actions. Whether Victor's plot works or not, Claire will eventually discover his deception and lash out over his dirty move. Victor and Claire's grandpa-granddaughter bond should take a serious hit, so we'll see how long it takes Claire to get past this. Nick Newman keeps insisting that a romantic reunion with Sharon Newman isn't going to happen. Based on everything we've heard from Nick so far, he thinks he's fine being friends and co-parents with Sharon. Nevertheless, Nick may find that he's lying to himself about his destiny. Will Nick ultimately determine that he indeed wants a future with Sharon? One that includes a brand new romantic chapter? There's still time for Nick to have a major realization, so stay tuned for updates on any big shifts that might play out with Sharon following their London trip. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal a preview clip has been released for the week of April 21, 2025. It shows Amy Lewis getting an update on her cancer treatment. Tessa Porter and Daniel Rumalotti Jr. team up on a project. Plus, Diane Jenkins Abbott unveils the newly decorated manse. Keep reading and let's talk about what is coming up in the CBS soap opera. Next week, Nate Hastings will have some medical news to share with Amy. Although Nate isn't a doctor anymore, he used his connections to help Amy. Now, Amy is undergoing a specialized cancer treatment. Amy wasn't doing so well recently and ended up in a Chicago hospital, but she's back in Genoa City now. Amy even was able to go out for a coffee, which can be a huge undertaking for someone with health issues. In the preview clip, Amy is chatting with Nate and Damian Kane. Nate goes to take a phone call, then returns with news. Nate has an update for Amy on her treatment. Judging by Nate's facial expression and tone, it must be good news. Of course, Amy will rejoice with Damian and Nate if it's positive news. Amy might also take the opportunity to tell Damian that she hopes he's being honest about everything. Amy will have to say it delicately, but she did admit to Lily Winters that she doesn't blame her for being concerned. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that at Society, Daniel and Tessa will do some more bonding. These characters became unexpected friends following Heather Stevens' death. In the preview clip for the week of April 21, Tessa asks Daniel if there is anything he's wanted to do that he just didn't have time for. That is when Daniel gets an idea, but he can't do it alone. Daniel tells Tessa that he needs her help with this new project. There are no clues as to what this project could be. However, it sounds like it might be fun. Over at the Abbott manse, Diane is finally ready to show everyone what she has done with the house. Jack Abbott and Kyle Abbott are escorted inside with their eyes closed. When Diane tells them to open their eyes, both men look around stunned. However, it's not clear if those are good or bad looks. Because of how anxious Jack was about the changes, I had a feeling that Diane didn't alter too much. It most likely still looks very much like it always did, just like Jack wanted. In The Young and the Restless, emotional turmoil reaches new heights as Tracy Winters grapples with the mysterious disappearance and confirmed death of her beloved Alan Winters. The storyline unravels a layered narrative of loss, deception, and the unyielding pursuit of truth, anchored by Tracy's transformation from heartbroken partner to determined investigator. Tracy's ordeal begins with Alan's sudden disappearance, a blow that sends her spiraling into a prolonged state of grief. Despite years of silence, she clings to hope, refusing to accept he's truly gone. Her emotional pain is compounded by Martin Chancellor, a man closely connected to Alan, who withholds critical information about Alan's fate. Martin's refusal to speak initially shields Tracy from the tragic reality, but ultimately drives her to emotional isolation. Her former life becomes unrecognizable, and the streets of Genoa City serve as constant reminders of the man she lost. Unable to bear the silence, Tracy embarks on a cross-state search for the truth. Leaving Genoa City, She follows tenuous leads through Chicago and Detroit, only to be met with dead ends, misinformation, and elusive contacts. Despite the emotional toll, her determination does not falter. Back in Genoa, Martin issues a carefully crafted press release under the guise of mundane news. But hidden within is a devastating revelation. Alan Winters died expressing regret over the life he never lived with Tracy. When the bulletin reaches her, Tracy is overwhelmed with sorrow, rage, and a newfound drive to uncover the full truth. Fueled by betrayal, Tracy returns to Genoa City, confronts Martin directly, and demands answers. The confrontation is searing, accusations fly, apologies fall flat, and Tracy declares her intent to expose Martin's deceit. She walks away with more than grief. She carries a mission. As she delves deeper, inconsistencies emerge. A suspicious death certificate lacking official authentication, a grave with no recorded burial, and rumors of Alan being seen alive well after his alleged death all point to a larger cover-up. Tracy launches her own investigation, conducting surveillance and obtaining forensic expertise. A private exhumation leads to the confirmation that the remains do belong to Alan, though signs suggest post-mortem tampering and experimental exposure. Her search eventually leads her to Martin's clandestine laboratory, hidden beneath his estate. Inside, she discovers a cryogenic chamber labeled with Alan's initials. Martin admits to preserving Alan's body for experimental purposes, revealing that while Alan's physical form remains intact, his consciousness is lost. Tracy is devastated by the revelation, faced with the ethical horror of Martin's actions. Confronted with the ultimate moral dilemma, Tracy refrains from exacting violent revenge. Instead, she chooses the path of justice. She contacts authorities, leading to Martin's arrest. As police lights flood the estate, Tracy finds closure, not through vengeance, but by standing firm in her principles. In the aftermath, Tracy channels her grief into advocacy, ensuring Alan's memory is preserved with dignity. Her journey affirms that resilience in the face of deception is not marked by retribution, but by a relentless pursuit of truth. Alan Winters, once presumed a forgotten name, becomes a symbol of enduring love and unyielding justice.